Welcome to the Big Success Show. Today, give yourself a pay raise. Brought to you by FinancialFreedomTool.com. Plenty of money for life.
Big Success with the Professor and Mary-Lynn.
You know, Mary-Lynn, many people just don't realize that they don't have to wait on their boss to get a pay raise.
Woo! Empower!
That's right.
I'm just going to go take that pay raise.
Well, you can give yourself a pay raise.
Oh.
There's 3 steps. We're going to talk about them today.
The show is inspired by an article we read on Thrive Global by Angela Hall. That's all about setting yourself free by expecting less.
Hi, I'm George Kruger, a.k.a. the Professor.
And I'm Mary-Lynn. So now, wait a minute, though. I know the show's inspired by an article that's about expecting less. So does that mean we're not supposed to dream big?
No, that does not mean that, Mary.
And big with 2 G's.
What it is this. It's all about conditions and expectations, okay? So we have the ability to adjust one or the other. We can either adjust our expectations or we can adjust the conditions. If we lower our expectations, we may be happier. Think about that.
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's a little bit about increasing the margin. So you can picture a margin on a sheet of paper. Mm-hmm. It's like increasing that margin, that space between, let's say, the start of the writing and the notebook or the piece of paper you're using. What we're talking about here is increasing that space between your income and expenses. There's more than one way to do it. One is to get a pay raise. The other one is to give yourself a pay raise.
And we're going to talk about how to give yourself a pay raise right now. So let's set this up, Professor.
All right. So let's just say, Mary-Lynn, I'm going to just use X as a substitute for the numbers. Let's just say you get an X% pay raise.
And that way you can fill in the blank for yourself. You can say 10%, 15%. You can go big and say 50%. The boss really loves you.
So whatever it is, but you can picture that, right? An X% pay raise. Okay. Now I'm going to do a little trick that we often do in the classroom. We're going to make some simplifying assumptions. Okay. This just makes it so we can kind of weed out stuff that complicates this whole thing so that we can understand the main point. Okay. So 2 simplifying assumptions. One is we're not, even though we're going to make more money with a pay raise, we're not going to have to pay more taxes. Okay. Now the government's not going to let us get away with that, but this is our simplifying assumption. Okay.
In the dream world. Yes.
And the other simplifying assumption is, unlike normal human beings who, when we have more, we spend more.
Right.
We're going to keep a lid on spending. Okay.
All right.
So we make X% more, no new taxes, no new spending. That means we're going to be able to put that X% right into our savings account. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say that doesn't happen. Okay. So let's say that doesn't happen. Let's say you don't get a pay raise. All you got to do then, I don't have more income, but I can create that margin by having less expenses. Okay. So if I can cut my expenses by X%, I can give myself the equivalent of that X% pay raise.
So how do you reduce your expenses by X%? We're going to give you 3 steps right now. Number 1, and this is what really inspired the discussion that we're having today in that article from Angela Hall on Thrive Global. She said there are 2 words to use that really help you be able to be happy with where you're at right now. And those words are for now. So step number 1 to reduce your expenses is to remind yourself it's for now. So you can increase your expenses, but for now,
you're going to increase.
Right,
Okay, I see.
You're going to decrease your expenses.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's some big punishment that you have to live with forever, right?
Exactly. This may be for now until your next pay raise. It could be, in the meantime, I'm going to live like this. All right. Mm-hmm. You're going to say, I'm going to cut my costs for now. It's good enough for now.
Right.
It's all I need for now. I can get by for now.
It's really freeing.
It is.
Because you can still
have... And that's the point of our article, is frees you up.
You can still have dreams and aspirations for other things in the future. But for now, this is what we're going to do in order to be better off. And
what it doesn't mean is giving up on those dreams.
Right.
It just means that, and I guess the way we always talk about it, Mary-Lynn, is if we can't be content with what God's given us right now, if we can't be happy about that, how can we expect blessings down the road? Or how can we expect him to bless us? It's accepting the state where we are in order to now move forward and perhaps be even, in a better situation.
Right. To be able to accept and receive even more later on.
Exactly right.
All right. So now our second way to reduce your expenses is to look at what costs are easy to eliminate.
Yeah. You ever notice this, Mary-Lynn? We get, unfortunately, it happens to all of us all the time. We get tired of our cable bill. So we go to the new cable company. Okay.
Because all the incentives are always for the new customer,
exactly.
Not for the long-paying customer who's been around forever. The loyal customer, we got nothing for you.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
Yes. And so the point is, we get that introductory offer and everything's great. But then over the course of time, those costs, that monthly cost drifts up. Mm-hmm. It never drifts down. It always drifts up, right?
Yes.
And before you know it, we're spending at a whole new level. Okay. So, I think of the cable bill, obviously the phone bill, but other costs do the same thing. It's just not maybe quite so clear.
Right.
But the point is, if we look at those costs that are easy to find, we can find like things we're not using. We just recently did this. We reviewed kind of a lot of our spending because we hadn't done it for a few years, and we found a lot of waste in our spending.
Right,
And we're not wasteful people.
We were on a plan that had an amount of data usage that we weren't even coming close to. So why are we paying for stuff that we aren't using?
Exactly.
And then all the channels, but yet we couldn't use all the channels, and most of the channels we didn't watch. So why are we paying for stuff that we're not using?
Right.
So we were able to reduce costs considerably, and we're happier.
And less choice is not always a bad deal.
That's true. Now we're to our third way to reduce your expenses. And you need to answer the question, what's the norm?
Yeah. So another way of saying this, what are people like you, people in your income range, what are they spending? And we call that a benchmark. That's a benchmark. That's something to attach to, right? So that you can now compare your finances to those finances.
And this is smart too, because to know that, oh, wow, I'm spending way more than people in my income bracket when it comes to going out to eat. Then you immediately would know, hey, that's a place I should watch.
Right. And what I love about our solution for this, because we're about to tell you how to get this information.
Yeah, how do you get all that information?
But the point is, what we're not comparing ourselves to is that vacation that our friends just took, or that new house that our friends just bought, or that car that they just pulled up in their driveway, and that brand new car. We're not comparing that. We're not comparing what we see on Facebook. We're comparing. Because see, there's things we don't see on Facebook. We don't see, in some cases, a credit card bill or the mortgage payment or the car payment. We're not seeing the full result of these decisions. But in the data that we're going to talk about here, you get to see the whole picture. And that's what's important. I not just see the picture I see on Facebook, I also get a sense of what the cost is. And I can compare myself to the full picture as opposed to just one tiny piece of it.
And by doing that, you can make better strategic decisions. And of course, you can make sure that your spending is in line with your income. And so you can get all of this information with a tool called the Financial Freedom Tool, which we created. The professor himself, his magic touch is in this software.
And what it helps you do, as Mary-Lynn said, is it's going to help you quickly pinpoint opportunities for you to give yourself a pay raise.
Yeah.
Quickly pinpoint those places where our spending is maybe a little bit, maybe it's fine. You're going to review every item, but maybe you see places where your spending isn't in line with your priorities. You say, you know what, why am I spending on that when all my peers are spending, 5%, 10% less? I can give myself a pay raise by just finding out how I can cut that cost down to where they're at.
You can learn more by going to financialfreedomtool.com.
And we thank you so much for listening today.
Until next time, here's to your big success.
Find big success at biggsuccess.com.